Alright guys, I just have a minute before I head back out this evening. First off, I want to say thank you for all of you that have been following through as I'm making these videos throughout deer season, because I know it's probably a little boring seeing a lot of the same old scenes every day as I start the day, and views from a tree stand and all of that. And I know I haven't really gotten in too deep as far as with any photography topics and things like that. So I want to say thank you guys for sticking through it. Today's my last day of hunting until Saturday, and I can hunt Saturday and Sunday, and then I'm done. So then we'll be back to regular. I've got a few things planned that I'm looking at, and I've been thinking of some topics that I can dive into and spread out over a few days, because they're a little bigger topics to tackle than one short video daily. But today, the thought I want to talk about real briefly is wondering where you guys find yourself as far as lens usage. Was talking with someone yesterday, and we got to chatting a little bit about favorite lenses and things like that. And not to get too much into gear, but I realized for myself, I really struggle with the real wide angle lenses. I've got a 10 to 24 millimeter real wide angle lens for my Fuji gear that I use, and I bought it mainly to use for some of my real estate work and things like that when I'm shooting interiors of homes and whatnot, just to be able to really capture a room a little easier than having to try and work with something tighter. And outside of real estate, I have used it a bit, but I'm really gonna have to put in some effort, continued effort. I've played around with it a little bit and I've been trying to figure it out, but it's not a focal length I'm used to using for things like landscape, nature, scenic, things like that. It's really not the first lens I grab. And I was talking with someone yesterday, and I came to a conclusion that part of the reason could be because where I'm at here in northern Minnesota, you can see around me, we do have some areas where it's nice, and some openings and things like that where a wide angle can be handy. But a lot of our woodlands are really dense forests. I don't know if you can see this behind me here, but this area is fairly open. It's a nice walking trail, and there's a little bit of room. But when you look over my shoulder and stuff, you can see we have a lot of really dense forest and a lot of underbrush. So it makes it hard when you're shooting really wide to not have that scene feel just absolutely cluttered and clustered up. And so it's kind of an interesting thing, and I don't know if that's why I tend to gravitate to something a little bit longer. I find that most often I'm shooting with a mix of a 35 millimeter on one camera body and the 56 millimeter on the other, and I really like that combination because it gives me just wide enough with the 35 where I can get some little more landscape, a little wider scene, but not ultra wide. It's the equivalent of a 50 millimeter, so it's not really a wide angle at all. And then the 56 is the equivalent of an 85 millimeter, and it lets me really pick out those little details in a scene and highlight them and let some of that extra distraction of the brush and everything else fade away. So kind of an interesting thing to think about. And then while I was talking to the person I was talking to, they mentioned how they used to use a 50 millimeter lens on their Canon camera all the time. And it got me to thinking back with my Nikon gear. I had primes from 24 millimeters all the way through 85, but 9 times out of 10 I had either the 50 millimeter or the 85 millimeter mounted on my full frame Nikon, and that's what I shot with. And I don't know why that is really. I know I got in the habit of using them for portrait work, but even with landscape stuff, I find that I was using that lens, that focal length, quite a bit for most things. And one thing that I'm gonna do once hunting season's over and I have a little more time is I want to use the handy features in Lightroom that will let you go through your catalog and look at images, sorted by criteria. So you can go in and say, show me all pictures made with the 35 millimeter, and it'll pull up everything with a 35mm range or everything made with that one lens, and lets you really see a breakdown on the percentages of what you tend to shoot with more. Now, the cool thing about that is that, number one, it helps you identify, what your most used lenses are, which can help you a lot of times save a little money on gear in the long run, because when you really look at it, if you really don't shoot, say, at 200mm, for example, and you're not shooting a lot of really zoomed in stuff where you're going to need a telephoto lens, well, it kind of tells you don't need to spend the money on it right now, even though that 50-140 that Fuji makes looks like a beautiful lens. But the other nice thing about it is that it can help you identify areas of weakness with your photography and areas that you may want to focus on, because sometimes, and I know this is the case for me with that 10-24, I don't grab it and don't use it as often, and it's not that it's a bad lens, it's a beautiful lens, and the main reason I don't grab it, I think, is that I'm just not comfortable with it, and so when I go to use it, I don't really know how to use it, and so I kind of gravitate away from it. And it's an area that, by forcing myself to address it and use it and learn to shoot wide angle like that, it's something I think that can really be a benefit to us in our photography, because it gives us one more tool in that tool bag that we can reach for and know that we have the ability to make a certain type of shot in certain circumstances, rather than just thinking in terms of just the one or two lenses you use most often. So I'm curious to know if you guys have any favorite lenses or most commonly used lenses that you guys go to all the time. And if you do, leave me notes down in the comments here, or send me a message via Twitter or Instagram or any of that. I do have my new Facebook page up for the photography side of things, so it's not linked to my main page anymore. So certainly generate any conversation you want right over there. I do urge you guys not to sound like I'm a salesman, but if you are liking these videos and you like the work I'm putting up with my photography, please do me a favor and go over, subscribe, and share on the YouTube page. Follow me on Instagram, and also give me a like on Facebook for my David Swiduk Photographer page as well, where I send these links out daily. So I've got links to all of those here in the show notes, so you can see all of that. And I really would appreciate it if you guys just go and pop in there. To those of you that already have, thank you so much, and don't be shy. Let's get a conversation going. I'd like to try and build a little bit more of a community feel, where it's not just me all the time talking, and I've got a few of you that are excellent at sending me comments and sending me questions and thoughts on things as I post them. Keep that coming, and I'd love to get more people into this conversation, because the more people we have, the more we can all learn and the more we can all grow. So if you have a favorite lens or a go-to lens that you use most often, absolutely in one of those places, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or here on the YouTube comments, leave me a message and let's talk about it. Let's see what you use most often, and I'd be curious to know why. So with that, I'm gonna head back out into the woods. It's my last evening to hunt, and I'm really hoping I can get this done tonight, so that this weekend, when we get a little snow coming, I can go out with a camera instead of with a gun. So you guys take care, have a good day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.